Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. Thanks for joining, everybody. It's Album War once again here. But for tonight, we're going to go all the way back to the debut albums from five bands from the new wave of British heavy metal scene. But before we reveal the albums, let me reveal the cast. Karen La Preziosa is here. Count Ralph Tambora is here. Craig Kaminsky is here. And The Rock himself is here, Mr. Ryan Scow. What's going on, people? How are you?
Hello.
Greetings, hard rockers and metalheads. New wave of British heavy metal debuts, right? So let me just tell you right off the bat what we are not including tonight. Well, if you saw the thumbnail of the video, you know we're not including it. But we decided to take Iron Maiden out of the equation tonight because you put Iron Maiden in the equation, probably going to win automatically, right? So we figure let's
Oh
make it a
yeah.
little bit more even playing field. I picked five other heavy hitters. We're going to start off with Tygers of Tang, Wildcat. These are all debut albums. There we go. We've got the self-titled from Angel Witch. Classic stuff right there. We've got the debut from Satan, Court in the Act.
Oh yeah.
We've got, it's going to look white to you, but we've got Lightning to the Nations by God.
Yes.
There we go. Right there. There's the other cover, of course, from 1983, I think, right? And then I don't have my hard copy, but Mr. Scow's got it. We've got Death Penalty by Witchfinder General.
Witchfinder General.
That's right. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that in this batch of albums, right? So we've got like some kind of early speed metal thrash. We got some pretty gritty hard rock. We've got full on metal. We've got kind of doom, right? We got a little bit of everything here. I think this is a pretty eclectic and cool bunch, and five winners for debuts here. So, but we're gonna pick a winner out of them. So why don't we do like we normally do? Everybody, so we'll start off, we'll go one trip around. Everybody give your number five and number four. Then we'll go another trip around three and two, and then we'll reveal our number one. So we'll start ladies first, as always. So Karen, give us your number five and your number four.
Uh, okay. My number five is Tigers of Tang. And that wasn't difficult to come to. This was a hard challenge, but that one was pretty easy. Tigers of Pantang, it's a great record. I haven't listened to it in a long time. It was a lot of fun. I was telling Ryan that I remember just having this on in the background. We're in our friend's bedroom, chilling, whatever, doing things teenagers shouldn't be doing. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Uh, but I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he kind of made a really good point, and I agree with this wholeheartedly. It gets kind of the same after a while. It has a lot of Southern rock kind of feel to it, but it kind of sounds the same. And I really do wish the vocals were stronger. Um, Same bass line, the pace doesn't change much. It's still good boogie rock and roll, I think. Sometimes they remind me a little bit of AC/DC. Sometimes they have that, to me, a Southern rock kind of feel. Um, Favorite songs are Killers. I love the changes. Insanity, I like the changes. And the laid back vocals on that song. Um, Slave to Freedom. It's a pretty good record. It's a solid record. And just because I'm saying these things, I'm not putting it down. Don't get it twisted. It's just so hard to do this. My next
That probably
album
best album
is,
cover out of all of them. I think the album cover is.
I think so too. And that looks like, to me, that really captures a
Oh yeah.
pissed off tiger, doesn't
Yep.
it? My next one is Witchfinder General, and I really do love this record. I feel that this is one of those records that could benefit so much from better production. A lot of it sounds like a demo, and the vocals kind of after a while kind of bother me. But Witchfinder General, Invisible Hate, Death Penalty, um, all the riffs are super dirty. R.I.P. I think is the dirtiest. Plus, it's got cowbell.
Yeah, it
Some of
does.
the solos sound like Tony Iommi is in the studio, and that's not really a bad thing. Um, I just love it. It it could be so much better, but it's a really good record. That's how I feel about it. it bothers me that the vocals are more up front than the guitar. I think the vocals are more prominent. I think the guitar should be much louder, especially for this kind of doomish feel that they've got going on. So yeah, those are my picks for 4 and 5.
I think you hit the nail on the head about that album, about the vocals.
Yeah,
They're not the strongest vocals to begin with, and they're too high in the mix. I absolutely agree with
yeah.
you. Otherwise, great stuff. Cool. All right. Ralph.
All right. So yeah, this was really hard. I love this collection of bands that you
Yeah.
put together. This is a really fun one to go back and listen to all these. One thing I noticed was that four out of the five bands had a song about like freedom. Tigers Pantang had Slave to Freedom, Witchfinder General had Free Country,
Oh yeah,
Satan
good
had
one.
Break Free, and Angel Witch had Free Man. And if we would have had Iron Maiden's first one in there, you could have had Running Free,
That's right.
and it would have been. That's just so weird that all these albums had that in there. I just couldn't help but notice that. So I'm following Karen. I have which fight or Tigers of Pantang at number 5. I think it's great. The guitars are amazing. Badger Badger, Insanity.
It's a good one,
Uh,
Badger
Rob
Badger.
Rob Weir is a great guitar player, and it even had like I hear a little bit of the AC/DC kind of vibe to him. But I also hear Thin Lizzy, even though John Sykes isn't on this album. After I listened to this one again today, I also listened to Spellbound right after, and I prefer Spellbound. I like the more powerful sounding vocals,
Yeah.
and the vocals definitely is the one thing that I think puts it at the bottom of this list. But like Karen said, it's a great album. And you got to put one at number 5. And just like Karen, I'm going Witchfinder General. Death Penalty. I think the title track is great. The little there's the Tigers of Pantang and the Witchfinder General. This album cover was taken in front of uh, Saint Mary Blessed Virgin Church, and they didn't tell the Reverend when they did it, so there was a bit of controversy about it. They they just ran out there and did it, and they found out later because the church is behind there. And I think somebody who made a comment in one of our episodes, I couldn't remember what exactly episode it was, but he mentioned how he was in this picture. He's part of the road crew for Witchfinder General,
Oh, really?
and it's like the whole
Wow.
band in this picture, but he was just like somebody who was a part of the road crew, and he got to be in the picture. And he mentioned that, but I can't remember what episode it was that he mentioned. But I remember writing back to him like, "Holy shit, that's fucking awesome!"
Maybe you'll
But
watch the comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, yeah, maybe he'll see it and say, "Yeah, that was me." Uh, Burning a Sinner is great. Rest in Peace is a great one, like Karen said. I think it's great. The Free Country song and
Mhm.
I love the title track, Death Penalty. Very Sabbath like throughout the whole album. Definitely you
Yeah.
hear tons of Sabbath vibes. I think with this, it's kind of like what are you in the mood for, where it can go up higher in the list. But if you're in the mood for like a Sabbathy kind of type of thing, but if you're more for like a Judas Priest kind of thing, then you go for other ones. But yeah, that's my 5 and 4.
Okay, cool. Craig.
All right. This one is really tough because I had I like all five of these. All five of these I think are good to great and or very good to great. So this was really difficult. Actually, before we came on, I was talking to my brother and I said, "How would you rank these albums?" And I read all five of them and I think the first thing he goes, "Man, he goes, oh." Well, he's going, well, no, wait, hold. Oh man, he did that for like 3 minutes before he told me how he would rank them. So anyway, so this was kind of difficult, but I might vary a little bit by what some of you guys have, but it's just because of my personal listening preferences. So no, number 5, I have Satan, and it's not that I, it's not I do I this is I really do enjoy this in this album. I've seen them twice live. They put on a great show,
Aren't they?
great leads. that they have. I enjoy the singing. The songs, especially on this debut, I think are really strong. Unfortunately, somebody has to come in fifth out of among these, but I thought this one sounded kind of similar, somewhat to Angel Witch. Once we get to that, but songs like Blades of Steel, No Turning Back, Hunt You Down. Really enjoy it. And again, although for the time period, I guess for '83, it's maybe a little late to the party compared to some of these other ones, but it is a really good album, and we've mentioned it how many times. It's probably held back by the name of the band and everything, that more people perhaps are not aware of them. And but a great band nonetheless. But out of these five, I had it as my number five, and my number four I had Angel Witch. And for a 1980 debut. I listed in my notes. I said sounds very professional, very well recorded, and really just as good as Iron Maiden's debut. In my opinion, and if you like that type of music that Iron Maiden uh, does, at least on their first album, Angel Witches really is right up your alley. And the album has a lot of variety on it, and again, it's just very professional sounding. I like the songs "Confused," "Atlantis." Were my favorite ones. The title song, "Angel Witch" by Angel Witch on the album Angel Witch, just like Iron Maiden did. But those two I have as my fifth and fourth, and it's really because they're more indicative of the new wave of British heavy metal sound. I think, and so I just have those as for personal preference, just the type of the
That's an
style.
interesting point because I think out of these five albums, those are the two that are probably most tied together from a musical standpoint, whereas the other
Yeah.
three are a bit different from a lot of the other, yeah, and which we'll talk about. So that's an interesting way to look at it. So and I totally get that. Cool. All right. All right. Well, no clear winner yet. So Ryan, what do you got?
I don't know if I'm going to help this out too much, but here we go. So I know the cool thing about a lot of these albums, and I think these five albums, if you take them as a whole, this is like really where metal was starting to really separate from hard rock because none of these
Yeah.
albums, for the most part, sound very 70s. I guess you could say a little bit of Witchfinder General because they have that Sabbath vibe, but even them, it all kind of sounds like a new thing. It has a none of these albums sound like they could have come out in like 77 or 76. It just doesn't have that sound. Uh, which is cool. But they're also like, depending on the album, depending on the song, sometimes it does have like that kind of that 70s rock vibe creeping in a little bit. And then you hear something that's like, nope, that's like modern, for the time. But my number five, having said that, is I also have to go with Tigers of Pantang. This is a great debut. As some of you guys have said, all five of these albums are awesome. There's no
Yeah.
duds here in the mix, but something's got to be last. But as Karen did say, I do think this album it can get a little samey, but not necessarily in a bad way. Just
Right.
compared to
Yeah.
some of the other albums that don't have really that issue. And also I'd say all of these bands, like these are some of the best things they ever did. But I admit for Tigers, I do like the second one, Spellbound, a lot more with John Sykes on second guitar. This one is just Rob Weir as the lone guitarist. But it's great, It still has like a little bit of this is one of those deals where it's very metal. It's a very metal album. Like nobody would mistake it for anything else. But it does have like a little bit of like a southern rock kind of
I think
70.
so.
Yeah, not a lot. It doesn't overpower
Right.
it, but it creeps in different sections. Which, wasn't really uncommon for a lot of these new wave bands because the whole metal thing was pretty fucking new at the time. Uh
And Karen mentioned Boogie, and I hear a little Foghat and a little Pat Travers
yeah,
in some of
Yeah.
it's definitely in there, and it's one of those deals where like by the time they got to the second album, like a lot of that was this is like much more of like just a straight up like metal album.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get a little of that 70s vibe in here, and it's cool because some of these like I don't want to say Iron Maiden again, but that album doesn't really have much of that. It's much more like metal sounding. Where in this album, you do get a little bit of that. So that's one of the cool things about the new wave is that it's still got a tendril in the old world, but they're doing something pretty cool. I guess hence the name of the genre, right? But yeah, this is my number five. Artwork's cool. It sounds cool. The production's solid. Vocals, I admit, aren't my favorite in the world with good old Jess Cox on vocals for this one, but you know, not a bad album at all. Definitely not a bad album. So that's my number five. Number four is I'm gonna also go with Witchfinder General. Uh, so I bought this one, and I bought the first two albums about the same time a while ago, and for a minute, they gave me what I'm gonna refer to as Molly Hatchet syndrome. And Molly Hatchet
Oh,
syndrome
yeah.
is when you hear an album and you see it and you kind of expect one thing and you get something else, which I want to put out there is not the band's fault. It's never the band's fault because the band's just doing what the fuck they want. You know, it's kind of on you if your expectations don't really mesh with what it is. But I saw the name of the band because I'd seen the movie, the cool, the artwork, and I thought it was gonna be like really like heavy and dark and like morbid. And it's really not. Like it's the vocals are much higher, they're up front in the mix, but they're also kind of like bright and cheerful in a way. And some of the songs, like, it's almost more a little bit more of a rock and roll vibe. But then you get songs like Witchfinder General, Burning the Sinner, and R.I.P., which are darker. So, it is a nice bit of variety. It's a great album, don't get me wrong, but I do remember like the first year or two I was listening to this, I'm like, I thought it was just gonna be like this dark, like morbid stuff. And it's not. And of course, for an album that came out in 1982, I don't know what the hell I was expecting. I was a lot younger. That's on me. But no, it is a really good
What
album. The
what
song,
were
which
you expecting when you heard Tigers of Pantang name? When you
no,
hear
that
that
kind of
name,
like
when I was a kid and I heard that, I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
I thought
I
hair metal
really,
for Tigers of
well,
Pantang. I
I
thought that
just
was a
didn't
I
hair metal
even.
band.
I admittedly heard this one like a lot later. Like I got this when I was younger, but this I only bought this probably, I mean, a while ago now, but I wasn't like kind of like new to metal, so I kind of like was a little smarter about like, the cover doesn't always match that stuff. But where'd Craig go? And it was only a little while. Like after I listened to it for a little bit, I'm like, okay, this is, it's a good album. They're a great band. And some song like the song Witchfinder General is pretty fucking heavy and dark. But
Right.
songs like Free Country and No Stayer, like they're not really like these dark, heavy, morbid songs. But I want to put out there that's nothing against the band. Like that's on me. I just like calling it Molly Hatchet syndrome because people are like, oh, I saw the cover of that Molly Hatchet album. I thought it was gonna be like Morbid Angel. It's obviously not. It's a great Southern rock band, but like, that's not what it is. But
I think that Witchfinder General could have been what you're thinking of if I just think if it was recorded better and put the guitars more prominent than the vocals.
I don't even mind that. It's just the music really isn't. It's not. That's not the kind of band they were. And the vocals, like it's probably my least favorite vocals of these five bands. But again, they're not bad. They're just the dude wasn't a powerhouse vocalist. But that is what it is. But yeah, it is a great album. I have the art on a t-shirt because it's fucking cool as shit. Yeah, just a great. Of course, you have the back and the inside art too. You can't let that one go unnoticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the whole spread there. Yeah, great album. Really, really good album too. So that is my 5 and 4.
All right. This is turning out to be a spirited battle because we know it's toiling at the bottom here. All right. So my number five is also going to be Wildcat. I really like this album. This was not my first Tygers album. I bought Crazy Nights first, and then I bought the album before it. So I immediately went for the Sykes era. But I believe I bought Crazy Nights as an import when it first came out, and then I kind of went backwards. But then I always thought this was very, like you mentioned, this is more of a kind of like a hard rock album with some metallic edges, whereas I think like on that second and third album they became a full-on metal band. So they're not quite hitting their stride yet, but this is just good, muscular, hard rock and metal. To me, I mean, you listen to a song like Euthanasia, the first track, that doesn't sound all that much different than what you hear on Through the Night by Def Leppard. It's that kind of like
Mhm.
hard rock or metal, early metal, whatever. But and I mentioned, the whole Foghat Pat Travers kind of boogie thing, like Slave to Freedom. That's what I hear. It just sounds like a more
Yeah.
version of that. But Fire Clown, Killers, Money, Wildcats, all really good rockers. I really dig it. It's a good album. I think they would get better going forward. That's my number five. And my number four is also Witchfinder General. So I'm just kind of following along here. I mean, this is the interesting thing about them. They're often labeled as like the doom band in this movement.
I don't
But much of their music isn't really kind of slow and doomy like
It's
traditional.
not.
And Ryan
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head. There's just there's something about both of their albums that are like they're really good. I love the guitar riffs. They're kind of doom riffs, but they're like the way it's produced is not produced like a Doom record. You know, I mean, like some of the riffs sound like they could have come off of a Pentagram album, but then like the way the production it was done, it's missing a little heft. But the songs are great. Don't get me wrong, I love them. I love Free Country. That's probably the biggest kind of like Sabbathy song on here. Invisible Hate is great. I love Witchfinder
Yeah.
General. Burning Sinner and R.I.P. are really, really good. But I've never been crazy about the vocals of Zeke Parks. I just think he kind of takes the band down a little bit between that and production. I think these guys could have been really, really big. But you know, a couple things needed to be tweaked, and then before you knew it, the band was done anyway. So, but yeah, it's a great album. I love it. But it's my number four. And back to Karen.
This is where it gets really, really
Yeah,
hard. I'm going to say up until an hour ago, I had no idea my top three was going to be crazy. So we're doing 3 and 2 right now.
Actually, do them all because because otherwise we all know what the number.
Okay.
Yeah, do them all.
That's true, yeah.
All right. Angel Witch is my number 3.
Okay.
This is so hard. It hurts me to say that in a lot of ways. I just love that iconic Angel Witch song. It's just so great. I love the drums in this record. I love it. It just proves to me you don't need to have double bass all the time. Sorcerers and Freeman, they're like slow burners. They're epic, but they really pay off in the end. And what else do I got here? Gorgon is my favorite. It makes me want to watch that movie. Like as soon as we're done with that, I'm watching Gorgon. I love the way the lyrics are for that. Angel of Death is another great song. I like all the witchy songs. I don't know really what else to say about this record. It's just so iconic and it's so great and it's so catchy and it's been part of the soundtrack of my adult life and even my teenage life. And I'm just glad it's here. And any viewer who's not familiar with Angel Witch, I'm sure you've heard it. If you've been in a club or a heavy metal show or something and somebody's spinning records, you've heard the title track to this song. It's a great album and it's like almost a perfect heavy metal album in my opinion. So it pains me to say Angel Witch is number 3. So this is what was really hard. Number 2 is Satan, and this was so hard. Like up into an hour, like that was going to be my number 1, then it was going to be my number 2. And Ryan is talking about Molly Hatchet syndrome. That's what I had when I bought that record. I'll never forget. I was 1980, whatever. I walked into Rock Fantasy. I picked up Court in the Act, and I thought, whoa, this is going to be some sick thrash record or something like that. And it wasn't. And I was disappointed because that's where my head was at the time. It took me a few years later to really appreciate this record. And it is so consistent. The guitars are amazing and it just is relentless. It just doesn't stop. Trial by Fire, into Blades of Steel, into No Turning Back, The Broken Treaties, constant. But the pace of the album is pretty fast, but it changes. And I feel like, unlike Tygers of Tang, like you don't have that sameness, as Ryan was saying. The Ritual overlaps Dark Side of Innocence nicely. It just works so well, and it finishes strong with Alone in the Dark. I also want to say the one complaint I have about this record is that the vocals are too laid back. I forget the singer's name. He's a good singer. He can hit those high notes. He can scream. He can do all of that, and they should have put him more in the front. That's all.
Brian
They
Ross?
almost like echo. They almost like echo. It's like
yeah, it should be up there. And I'm not a big solo person or shredder, but I'm down for this. It's really, really good. There's great songwriting. So Satan is number 2 for me. And then Diamond Head. And I got a problem with this record is that the ones that are out there suck. The remixes. Now
it's not a remix, it's a whole new recording.
Yeah.
You gotta get
It's
the
almost,
OG, man. You
Ridiculous.
gotta have the
yeah.
OG.
I didn't
You got
believe
the
when you
OG
said that. I looked
one.
up, and the only version that's available on like all streaming websites is this new version, which
It's terrible. I
sounds
had to
like
go to
dog shit.
YouTube. Some of you may or may not know, I had lost my record collection, and with that went my diamond head. So I had to stream this, and it was I went to YouTube eventually, but regardless, I love Sean Harris's vocals. It could be a little much at times, but I do appreciate the way he like weaves in and out of the structure of the song. Like it's really good. He's really talented to do that. The songs change. The tempos change. They're not the same at all. They're different. Each one is different. The Prince, it's electric. And of course, Am I Evil? And I think Am I Evil is the perfect heavy metal song. And that is what I know. Hey, oh, this is why it's my number one.
Good.
Because that is to me, it's a perfect heavy metal song. Everything about it, the riffs, the changes. Uh I just I have a hard time expressing how I feel when I hear these songs, and that's when I hear Am I Evil? It's so good. And the rest of the album is really great too. Helpless, it doesn't let up. It's fast. It's just like a gut punch. The Prince, and I mentioned all these songs, the nasty vocals, the lyrics, the changes. It's a perfect record or at least Am I Evil is, but the whole album is awesome. And they kind of go to hard rock and then they have metal, but in the end, I feel it's a real metal album. And El Numero Uno.
All right. We have our first number one. Ralph.
All right. So my number three is got to be Satan. It's really hard putting it here, but it's this is hard. The last three are really hard. From Newcastle, same place as Venom. Court in the Act is a weird name of an album, and they got a song called Alone in the Dock, which is they got like this weird sense of humor with their stuff. But No Turning Back and Break Free is a banger. It's like the best of all the
Yeah.
freedom songs out of all these albums. Hunt You Down, The Ritual. I love Try by Fire. It's such a great album. This all five of these are so great. So yeah, then in the next two, it got really hard. So I got this Diamond Head. This is my version of it. I was reading something about all the way that they did it. Like they had only like 1,000 of them. They printed them up on. They had a deal with like to get a guy with cardboard that could make their album covers. So this sounds amazing. So I'm imagining that this might be re-recorded stuff. I don't know. I'm not. I didn't read the version I got, but this has got like the
There's a few
extra
of them.
songs. They do No Remorse by Metallica on this, and they do Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin, Sinner by Judas Priest, and Rat Bat Blue by Deep Purple on this. And they're all amazing, I think. I think they do a great job doing the cover songs, which is kind of weird how they got famous because of Metallica doing their cover songs. And this seems like the band that Metallica really worshiped the most, or James Hetfield did, or whoever, but they covered so many of their songs. They did yeah, so it's amazing sounding album. It was really hard between this and Angel Witch, but I got to go with Angel Witch. The title track itself, it's like every time I hear it, it sticks with me for the whole week, And I made sure that was like the last thing I listened to. I listened to everything else a couple times, but that was the last one because I know I'm going to be stuck with it now for a while. That really sticks in your head. And the song Angel of Death is so amazing.
Yeah.
Sweet Danger, Confused, Sorcerers, Gorgon, like Karen was saying. This it's just amazing. I really love this album. And yeah, that the album cover um is called what the hell was it called? It's titled, it was done by John Martin and it's titled The Fallen Angels Entering Pandemonium. Which is pretty cool. That would have been a cool name for the album. And just going back to Tigers of Pantang really quick, is I forgot to mention how Like I used to hear that name back in the day, and I thought it was such a dumb kind of name. Like sometimes I was so weird with like bands' names, I wouldn't even listen to them, or because you had to buy them back then too. It wasn't like you
Yeah.
just clicked it and So I kind of skipped on them for years, and then I found out what the name actually was from Michael Moorcock's Elric books, and the Dark Wizards would have tigers as pets, and I was like, oh shit, that's so cool because like Surathon Gold, they have Elric on every cover of their albums, and Michael Moorcock, the author, worked with Hawkwind and so many people writing lyrics and helping out with shit. So it's pretty cool when you look at it that way. But who would know? It's like just one of those things you find out later. If I would have known that back then, I would have checked them out earlier. But that's it. Angel Witch is my number one.
All right. We have a tie for first right now. Craig, what say you?
All right, I'm going to be I'll be the different one for this,
Yeah.
but that's okay. To thine own self be true. So I had for number three, I had Witchfinder General, and in my notes, the first thing I put was great cover. And the recording though of this is not as good as the other ones, but that's okay. I was totally cool with it, and actually I did have in my notes sounds similar to Pentagram a little bit in some of it, and it did have a bit of a 70s vibe. I thought in some of it, not as much as from the other bands, but really cool. Sort of, had some sort of doominess in a little bit of it, and some nice variety. I didn't mind the vocals, to be honest, but musically, I didn't think they were as strong as some of the other ones, especially probably Angel Witch and Satan were probably the most musically talented of these guys, but yeah, no stayer, free country, burning a sinner. I enjoyed this. I thought that was a really good album. So my number two, I went with Diamond Head, and which quite enjoy. I really enjoyed. Of course, I know most of these songs from courtesy of Metallica. Really, I mean, it's like I'm one of those people who never heard of Diamond Head until I heard Metallica's cover of Am I Evil, and then subsequently Helpless, and a few of the other ones that they've done over the years. But great vocals. Again, more rock and roll-y I thought than some of the new wave of British heavy metal type stuff. And I thought it seemed like it was more ahead of its time for the year that it was done. It didn't seem like an early 80s album. It felt like something a little bit more uh, pioneering, I think. But strong album, and I enjoyed all seven of the songs. I think it's really good. But my number one, I went with Tigers of Pantang,
No,
and and I and that and it's all right, but it's and I like Jess Cox's trashy vocals. I mean, I really do. What John Deverell is a smoother vocalist, the guy who did Spellbound, Crazy Nights, and The Cage, much more smoother. And obviously, they got a second guitar player in John Sykes, and I enjoy those albums too. But there's something about Wildcat that I really enjoy, and I think it's the least new wave of British heavy metal sounding album of these. It's more of just a good trashy hard rock album with I like the laid back vocals, and again, maybe not as skilled musically as some of the other ones, but these are the type of music that I enjoy and gravitate to. So for me, it wasn't too. I can understand, with some of the sameness, that comments that the guys have mentioned. But for me, it's okay. I mean, I like I like "Don't Touch Me There" and "Fire Clown" and "Susie Smiled." I like those songs. So it's just a good fun heavy album that I've enjoyed. Incidentally, I got this. This is a good box set to get for Tigers of Pantang. This has her first four studio albums, and then
Nice.
a live album of BBC songs that are pretty well recorded. And I think John Deverell does the recordings on the live album.
How
But
long
yeah,
ago did you get that? How long ago did you get
Not
uh,
that?
long ago. Yeah, it's pretty
year
inexpensive.
two,
Yeah.
yeah, year,
Oh,
2 years at the most. But
I gotta
called
find that.
yeah, it's called the MCA years. So
Oh
and it
Nice.
has
yeah,
a
that's
lot.
on
It has
Spotify.
it has a
Yeah.
lot of bonus songs on it too. I mean, uh, Wildcat has at least six or seven bonus songs on it. So it's all of the albums have B sides and such. So it's a good set to have
Cool.
if you enjoy them. But again, knowing that Jess Cox only sings on Wildcat, and again, John Deverell, the guy who sings the next few albums, is a stronger vocalist, and they kind of changed their style almost a little bit to be more, smoother, not necessarily as heavy, but still just as enjoyable. So, but for me personally, it's just that's my favorite of the five.
Cool. All right. So we have a three-way tie. Ryan, it's up to you and me. What do you got?
Well, let's see what I can do here. All right, so number three, number three, I'm gonna go with probably the most ripped off album of all these, because of its almost incalculable fucking influence on all thrash metal to follow, which of course is Diamond Head. Because I think just for Metallica covers alone, and geez, what did Metallica cover like half this fucking album over the years?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, you listen to this and you could be like, that's an Exodus riff. That's where Megadeth took that from. Metallica took riffs. You can listen to this album as like walking through like the early history of thrash metal because the influence was so huge, which is cool. It's a great album. Uh, I love it. I think every song on here is great. But as Karen said, "Am I Evil" is pretty much a perfect metal song.
It is.
Interestingly, it doesn't feel like it, but four of these tracks are over 6 minutes long. So over half the album, it's pretty fucking long. Like "Sucking My Love" is almost 10 minutes. But none of the songs seem to drag. They don't seem like, oh man, we're still playing the same riff set over and over again. Which is the sign of really good, energetic songwriting too.
Right.
Uh, I've heard it said that this is like kind of like one of the birthplace of like where like when you think of like a lot of the German like power metal that would come out of the 80s, like Halloween, Blind Guardian, Gravedigger. I've heard this is like the first band to kind of have that sound, even though they're obviously British. And I could see that too. It kind of does. Some of the songs like Helpless and Lightning to the Nations and The Prince kind of have that up tempo. It's not a dark album, but it's very fast paced at times and very
Yeah.
energetic album too. And some songs are a little more on the rock and roll side, but even those songs are very energetic. Like the album does not drag at all. There's no part of this album where you're like kind of like waiting for the next song to start too. Uh, I will say of all these bands, this band, I hate to talk shit, but this is the only thing they ever did that I like. Everything after this, I think is just terrible. I just cannot get into anything else this band ever did. And unfortunately, Tatler seemed to have a thing for just going back and I mean they re-recorded the whole album. And like I said, I didn't even believe it, but if you're on streaming services, the new version is the only version you can get, which
It's
sounded like
terrible.
it sounded like one of them Steve Keeler Sabaton bands. So, yeah, not
It's
not
like
not
he's
not
George Lucas with Star Wars. Just
yeah.
can't
So
pull it
yeah, so
off,
they
man.
they
You gotta pick it up
Tatler's
and mess
there
with
you
it.
go. Tatler George Lucas the shit out of this, much to my chagrin. But the original is amazing. That's my number three.
So you don't even like the last couple albums they've done? Because I like the
I
last.
don't like anything they ever did past that. I got the self-titled. I drove up to the Chance when it was around to see them in like a blizzard a couple of years ago, and I bought the self-titled the new or at the time new album, and the whole band signed it, and I was cool. And I think I played it like twice, and I'm like, ugh, I wasn't into it. But they were great live. I've seen them a bunch of times. Like every time I've seen them, it was only Tatler and like friends, new lineup, but they always delivered. They played a lot of that album. The newer
I
stuff did
I,
sound
I
good
got
in a lot.
I got to see them with Harris and Tatler, like in the that Jack Koshik show at in
March Metal Meltdown.
the Metal
What year was
Meltdown.
that?
Yeah, they in 2002 it was, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was
I
still
remember
with
that, but
Harris and Tatler.
yeah,
So
I
that
didn't
was
go to
cool.
that.
That was cool to see.
I
How was
was at that
Harris?
too.
But
How was Harris's vocals?
Really good, I remember. Yeah.
that's good.
Uh-huh.
Actually, now that we're talking about that, the first two band, I never saw these guys live. Yeah, I never saw Tygers and Witchfinder General. They reunited did a reunion album in like 2008, but I think it was a short-lived deal. So
Right.
I don't think I know anybody there, unless someone, pipes up, but I don't know anybody that's seen this band like back in the day. I don't know if they ever played the States.
They only had 3 records.
They only had three. They had the Soviet Invasion EP, two albums, and then they did a reunion album, which is almost coming up on 20 years old now, but yeah, I don't know if they ever made it to the States. Uh, but Diamond Head, I've probably seen them like 4 or 5 times over the years, and they're always good. Always delivers a good show. Uh, my number two, I have to go with one of the most underrated guitar duos in metal, and that is Satan. This
Oh,
was tough because the first two albums, the first, Tygers, Witchfinder General, and Diamond Head, I think are great albums, and I love them. But these two are two of my favorite albums. Period. Like just absolutely, I put them above most music. Yeah, this is a perfect album. I love this band. I love everything they've ever done. But this is a perfect album. Russ Tippins and Steve Ramsey as a guitar duo, unstoppable. I put them up just unfucking stoppable. They're so good. The lyrics are good. Brian Ross's lyrics are intelligent and kind of like moving. Uh, Sharon Taylor's drumming is phenomenal. Graham English's bass is phenomenal. Brian Ross's vocals are great in addition to his lyrics. Like you guys have said, like Karen said, the album does not slack at all. Once it gets going,
yeah.
it's just full force all the way through. And you know what's cool about this album, and especially the next one, but this too, is once you start getting more into metal and away from hard rock, I really value like atmosphere. Which with rock bands, rock is just rock. It's fun, it's dirty, drinking a beer at the bar, whatever. That's cool. But with metal, I'm always more into like I want to hear like good dark atmosphere. I just like that feeling. And this album's got a lot of it. It came in pretty dark at the time. Alone in the Dock. It's just a powerful song. Break Free is full speed ahead. It's almost thrash. Yeah, it's such a good album too. The production on it's really good. Uh, the vocals are a little buried, but doesn't bother me at all. I don't really mind. Uh, yeah, this is like if I had to rank them, this would be like 9.9999 out of 10 because I got to put something else above it. But yeah, Satan's number two. And I've seen them like I don't know 20 times now. They love to tour the states. They really love to tour the states, and every time they tour, I go see them. Like I don't
Oh,
care.
we love to see them.
I think it worked out. I think it between festivals and tour. I think like a couple years ago, I saw them 5 times in one year, like without even trying. It just, they were just playing the fests I was at, and then when they toured, and we saw them at like Dingbats and
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere else. But yeah, I ended up seeing them like 5 times in a row. Oh, with Venom Inc. We saw them with Venom Inc. too. So
Actually, a viewer heard us, you, me, and Nick talking about it on the show, and he went to Dingbats to see Satan just because he heard us talking about it.
I hope
It
you
was
enjoy
pretty cool.
it. Hope you enjoy it. But number one is, I don't know, one of the greatest albums ever. I fucking love it, and that's got to be Angel Witch. Yeah, this is a perfect album. Everything about it is great. I love the vocals. Kevin Hayborn's guitar playing is amazing. The songwriting, every single song on this is perfect. It's got such great atmosphere. There's a lot of variety in the songs. The artwork, is just fucking cool as shit. Uh, Love the gatefold art on this one. This is not an original, but it's still, it's just so cool. I love the back cover with the Baphomet and the band photo beneath it there. Yeah, it's a perfect album. If Iron Maiden never existed, this would be my favorite new wave of British heavy metal album. And even though I like Iron Maiden more as a band, they're my favorite band. I put this as an individual album. I put it up against any one album they ever did. It's just to me, it's just that good. Uh,
Wow.
Song Angel of Death. It's so fucking heavy and
Yeah.
creepy. Obviously, the title track everybody knows. If you don't know it, you should. But yeah, Gorgon, Sweet Danger, Free Man, White Witch, Confused. Perfect album. I knew that this was going to be number one. I fortunately was able to see them once. I don't really know what the deal is that they can't or won't tour the States. I think there's some legal bullshit. It's not my business. But I saw them in Montreal in either 2014 or 2015. I don't remember the year. But they played a small festival I went to. And it was incredible just to see Angel Witch. Even if I only saw them once, it was incredible to see them. So very, very happy about that. But yeah, this was definitely number one. Just if I had to make a top 10 list of like Desert Island albums, of these five, even though I love the Satan album, they're all great. This would be the only one I picked for like one of them top 10 Desert Island albums. It's that good. So number one is definitely Angel Witch. And since we're just talking about him, I know we didn't include him, but two other great ones are Hank, Times of Hades, and Holocaust and Nightcomers. Also a great album. So, because I know someone will be like, "Oh, you didn't mention this too." Like, Iron Maiden, which very justifiably didn't include. But yeah, these are also they're here. We're thinking about them. They weren't in this round. So
Yeah,
there you go.
could have done the Demon album, could have done Praying Mantis, like
Another
there's
show. It's another show.
exactly.
Grim Reaper, see you in hell.
Grim Reaper. I thought about
Yeah,
that as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Tokyo Blade, right? There's some really good ones. Really good ones. All right, so we have a head-to-head dead heat here. First place, Diamond Head has 2 votes for first place. Angel Witch has 2 votes for first place. Yeah, the top 3 for me were almost impossible. I went and changed my ranking numerous times, and I'm like, even now, I'm kind of like, because I these are all 3 equally really, really great, but you got to put something somewhere, right? So, all right, I'm gonna go with Courtney Act at number 3. I mean, to me, this band has probably the best twin leads this side of Iron Maiden.
Right.
Steve Ramsey and Russ Tippins are just amazing, and even on the newer albums, even better, right? I like Brian Ross's vocals. I think he sounds great here. Great songs. Trial by Fire is killer. Blades of Steel is killer. No Turning Back is a great anthem because despite the name, people, this is not this big evil sounding band. Their stuff is really accessible, just catchy, good metal with lots of great
Yeah, right
lyrics.
on.
Good. Broken Treaties is great. Hunt You Down is just terrific. Not a bad song on it. Not a bad song on it at all. Something's got to be number 3, right?
Here's the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I know. Here's the tiebreaker.
Number 2 is Angel Witch. It's terrific. I had this at number 1. I had this and the Diamond Head, both at number 1 at various points this week. This is great. I mean, to me, I think out of all these bands, this is the band that should have been huge. Well, I think Diamond Head as well. Because obviously Maiden became the huge band of this movement. But I think this band had all the tools. Diamond Head had all the tools, and it's just a shame that shortly thereafter it just didn't happen. But it's fast, it's raging, it's melodic. The playing is great. The title track, a couple of you mentioned it, one of the great title track songs of this decade, I think. Just so good. If you don't know it, you should. Atlantis is great. Sorceress is great. I mean, it's all really great. All killer, absolutely no filler. Cover is amazing. But I ultimately went with Diamond Head, number 1. I honestly I can't really pinpoint why. I think the production is really great on this album. I love Sean's vocals big time. He's another one of those guys. He had the it factor. He just faded into obscurity. I just don't get it. I mean, the opening title track is so good. The Prince is just crushing. Brian Tatler's guitar work on this whole album is amazing. And, he was the right guy to pick for Saxon on, the recent album and tour and whatnot, because I think it's cut from the same cloth, kind of. The Prince is so good. Sucking My Love is great. Am I Evil is legendary. Helpless is legendary. Top to bottom, absolutely classic. And I think a couple of you mentioned, on some of these albums, especially like this, like Helpless, that's pretty much thrash, right? The birth of thrash. But you can go back to the Satan album, and there's plenty of speed metal on that as well. So I think some of these bands influence so much of that happen here in the States and in Europe as far as like speed metal and thrash go, that you really have to really give some of these bands some credit, even though most of them never did much of anything when you really think about it, which is kind of sad. So that being said, we have a tie, right? Actually, I made a mistake before because I added my vote in before I actually spoke. So we have a tie. 2 votes for Diamond Head, 2 votes for Angel Witch. So we have to go to second place votes. Diamond Head has 2 second place votes. Angel Witch only has 1. Diamond Head's the winner.
Well, no.
It's a fair winner. It's a great album.
I know. It's like
It's a great album.
So, but yeah, there's no losers here because they're
for sure. No,
all 5 of these albums are fantastic.
I think we knew going in this was going to be tough. Yeah, this was definitely. I like doing ones like this where that there's no clear winner, and it's really painful to just kind of rank them and whatnot. So, but yeah,
this was a fun assignment. I had a good time listening to these albums again, revisiting them. It was a good.
And what's cool is I think it's totally cool. Like Craig, I think it's great that Craig really enjoys the Tygers the best out of all of them because it's a really great album. It's a little bit different than the other ones, but that doesn't mean it's bad by any means. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
songs are much faster and shorter.
yeah,
All five are pretty unique from each other. Like they all have their own, they all have their own sound to a
Although
pretty
it's
significant degree.
if somebody said that, oh, here's this American band called Tigers of Pantang, yeah, I don't think anybody would know. I mean, it's like it doesn't sound really British, or
Mm-mm.
anything.
No, it doesn't.
It's
yeah, that's true.
Sounds Chinese.
exactly. Makes me-
I asked Tony Dio right before I came on. I said, "How would you rank these?" And he had Diamond Head at number one, Satan at number two, Angel Wish three, Witchfinder General four, and Tigers at five.
Okay, all
Great
right.
minds think alike. That's exactly what I had.
It's hard though, because I think if you were to like, let's just say you were to rate each one of these five albums, like on a scale of 1 to 5, five being perfect. I mean, probably any of us could easily say that our favorite. All right, I mean, we just go through them. Like I'll do my own, right? So I would give Diamond Head is probably as close to a 5 as possible, but yet Angel Witch is pretty much perfect too. The Satan is pretty much perfect.
I know.
The Witchfinder General is probably a 4 out of 5, and the Tigers is probably a 4 out of 5 or a 3.5 out of 5. So that's pretty damn good for all five albums, right? When you really think about it. And yeah, good stuff.
I'd probably rate them almost the same. Yeah. Like even though I said Tigers is number five, but I'd still give that a 4 out of 5. Like it's a
That's
very
awesome.
good album. It just I like the other ones better, and I like Spellbound better from that band. But it's a really really good album. You know.
Why this was a great comparison because they were like so close again. We do a lot of these ones where it gets really hard at times,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. They're all. I mean they're beloved and remembered this many years later for a reason. You know,
Yep.
because they're fucking good. They're really good.
Right on.
Yep.
And they're influencing a whole bunch of new metal coming
Yeah.
out. I mean, they're still their hand is still touching metal today. And the only reason why I went with Diamond Head for the most part is Sean Harris's vocals. And like I said, I think Am I Evil is a perfect metal song.
And
first time I heard
not
My Evil, I was seeing Anvil at the Rock Three Rock yeah
JB's
in
Rock 3.
Middletown, JB's Rock Three,
Yeah.
Middletown, and when I heard it, I was like, oh, this has got to be the band Venom, but it was actually Metallica covering Diamond Head. But the first time I heard it, I thought for sure it was a Venom song.
If there
Wasn't
was
Sean,
a if there was a heavy metal version of, well, I didn't know that was a cover. I think Diamond Head would probably win it because obviously like we know it, but I've
Yeah.
had that conversation with a few people. They hear like Am I Evil, and I know on Garage Inc. they did It's Electric, and I think they also did the Prince.
Prince,
Yeah,
and
but Am I
they've done
Evil
like
is always the
four.
one where you're like, oh, that's a cover song. I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Metallica cover is really good. You know, it is really really good. But
and their
yeah,
cover of Helpless is great too.
it's good. But the original is better. But yeah,
Wasn't
They've
Sean,
even done "Sucking My Love" live. They've done it live. I don't think
Really.
they ever recorded it, but they've done it live, and
wasn't Sean
it's
Harris
electric too.
wasn't Sean Harris up for when I mean because of his style, like when Lou Gramm left Foreigner, wasn't he one of the guys who was supposed to sing on Unusual Heat, and then
Oh, that's interesting.
they
I don't
went
know.
with
That could be.
somebody else. I
Could be.
thought read that in one of Martin Popoff's books, that
That could be.
he had a
Great
shot at
voice.
that
Really
too.
great voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me.
he does have a great voice. Yeah, yeah. And like you said,
I love
Tyler's
it.
guitar playing on that is phenomenal. Leads and rhythm. Like the guy is just he fucking kills it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, so Diamond Head squeaks it out on our little album war here. So everybody watching, rank these as you like them down in the comments below. And we'll see you next time here on the Hudson Valley Squares. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please hit the like button before you leave for that wonderful little figure down there, right? And we'll see you next time here on the Hudson Valley Squares. For Karen LaPreziosa, Count Ralphus with that wonderful looking figure there, Craig Kaminsky and Ryan Scout, I am Pete Bardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.